Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My next guest is one of the most innovative and inspired guitarists and composers in the land. With her mimicking of natural sounds, the world of classical guitar will never be quite the same. Recently, part of the musical accompaniment for the great Luciano Pavarotti, from Cape Town, please welcome Miss Avril Kinsey. So, Avril, welcome.
Thank you.
You're from a musical family, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I have a sister who dances for Cape Town Ballet Company. She's been dancing solo roles for 15 years.
Really? Yes, yeah. And any others?
My dad used to play in a jazz band in London.
Right.
And before he took up the guitar, and then he moved to Cape Town and took up the
yeah.
guitar.
Now, this is the album you've released, Guitar Music from Africa.
Right.
Tell us a bit about that. What's inside here?
Basically, it's a background to rural indigenous music. What I did was I spent time traveling around the different areas, researching rural music and indigenous music rather than township music, and trying to capture some of the indigenous instrument sounds like gourd harps, marimbas, African zithers, and so on.
Okay, all on your guitar you captured?
Yeah, all on the guitar. And also some of the sounds of nature, various bird calls like the fish eagle and the desert Quran bird.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular that's strikingly different about the way African guitar is played in comparison to Western classical?
Well, I did have to adapt my technique quite a lot because I'm classically trained. And in order to play some of these effects, I had to be quite ingenious in a sense and overcome certain technical problems.
And did you work with African guitarists when you were in Renaissance?
Not really so much African guitarists, because what I did was I sort of immersed myself in the atmosphere of a place.
Yes.
For instance, when I went to visit Majaji, the Rain Queen, and spoke with her and got a feeling for the atmosphere of the place, and then internalized that emotionally, and then re-expressed it on the guitar, if you like.
Do you get into the darker side and the occult and all of this kind
of yeah, I suppose you could call it the darker side, although for me it was more of an enlightening experience than a dark side. I took a trip to visit Sangoma in KwaZulu, and that was fascinating, just hearing about all the rituals and what they go through and so on. And then I wrote a piece called Sangoma in 3 movements. And the first part is getting to KwaZulu. The second part is the evocation of the ancestral spirits, where I actually use a shell on the strings and get an eerie kind of a sound.
Okay.
And then the last one is a kind of wild and exotic ritual dance where I use the actual Sangoma swish and a porcupine quill.
And, I mean, can you use other things than a plectrum to play guitar then?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, you've got to have long nails in your right hand and very short fingernails in your left hand in order to be able to get some of the effects.
Now, can we have an example then of some of the stuff you do? Will you talk us through it?
Okay, sure. The first sound is the fish eagle, which happens in one of the pieces called Makoro's Song of the Water. And then in the Bushman piece, I use, it opens with a kind of little duet between a reed flute and a marimba. Well, I mean, obviously, it's not the real thing. It's a tiny little bamboo flute, and so I'm kind of using the open string there and then putting press stick on to get a slightly muted sound for the woody sound of the marimba. So it sounds something like this. That's the one side. And also in the Bushman piece, then we have a gourd harp, which is the single-stringed harp with a gourd attached to it, which the women hold actually against their breast when they play it, and then they beat on the single string. And the moving it in and out kind of gives a wah, 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 wah kind of effect, which I do by pulling the string down in this way. So that's the gourd harp sound. And then the little desert bird, there's a little desert Quran bird who kind of, it's based on a Bushman tale, and he warns all these creatures that they should leave because there's going to be a drought. Anyway, he sounds like this. That's the little desert Quran bird.
And these, what are these for?
Yeah, I put the swish underneath the string. Then we go a little bit mad for a while and do something like this, because of course you can do drum sounds on the guitar as well. So.
Lovely. Thank you, Dali. Now, when you're relaxing at home, do you ever play any good old rock and roll?
Well, funnily enough, yes. I have a partner that I often play with, Bob Gilson, and we do light music. In fact, we did a jazzy program last year at Grahamstown Festival, and we often do some songs as well. So,
just for contrast, will you give us a touch of rock on the guitar?
Rock and roll? I'm not really a rock and roll, but I can
just a little,
give you something else. Well, I'll tell you what.
Thank you.
I can give you a bit of a Spanish sound if you like.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to tune my string down.
That's fine, don't worry. Lovely. Thank you, Len. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's not all, ladies and gentlemen, because Avril's about to play for us. What are you going to play from your CD now?
The piece that I'm going to perform is Makoro's Song of the Water.
Okay, there you go. Avril Kinsey, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, darling.